also a professor in the College of Education. So we're delighted to have Ed welcome us all. Thank you.
We have to ask for it. So thank you, and I get to work as a dean and vice provost here and work with Anna Maria Calce, who's really a really remarkable president and leader on this campus. She's been at this now 3 years. Can you hear me okay?
Not very well.
Okay. Anna Maria's been at this 2 or 3 years, better, give me a head nod. And right away, she was sitting in a room with her, and she decided that she was going to launch she was going to launch a race and equity initiative. We were sitting in a room, and she said, "What do you think of this idea?" There's a small group of us. And we were giving her our opinion. And it was clear that she had already written the speech, and she had every intention of launching this initiative. She wasn't asking her permission at all. Then came population health. She launched this last year, and the third pillar is innovation. And that's in the first 3 years, so I think she's just beginning. And I think what she has imagined was this kind of gathering and this kind of conversation across disciplines, thinking well about issues of race, thinking well about issues of health and well-being of our communities. So on behalf of Anna Maria, I thank you and welcome. So if I could set aside the administrative speak for a second and just talk personally for a moment about the value of this for people like me. It's funny, this is not a digression, I don't think. My mother used to go to this church where the minister would always say, I'm going somewhere with this, so follow me. A colleague of mine was talking about his retirement. He's building a cabin. He's working on this cabin, and he's doing all these interesting things. He's got a road bike, and he rides a bike, and he works on the cabin. And I looked at him sort of quizzically, and he said, "Why do you look at me like that?" And I said, "You know, it's so interesting. I come from a place where people didn't live long enough to have cabins close to retirement. And it's such an interesting phenomenon. It's not something that I judge. It's so interesting. We should all hope to do. So I listened to him talk about post-retirement. My father died 2 years after he retired, 30 years in the military. Lung cancer. He was a Marlboro man. Stress and disease related to years and years in the military. My mother died a few years ago. Was diabetic all of her life. She didn't get to live long post-retirement. There was no retirement for most people in my community. And my community was this little town, most of us haven't heard of it, a little place called Lompoc, California, in the Central Valley of California. Some of you are nodding. There are, as best I can tell, from my home, a little modest home, for those of us that were working poor, within a couple of miles you could see at least 3 grand institutions that they all had a kind of similar mission. Give me your tired, your poor, your how the masses yearning to be free. The first was a military base where young men like me could go directly from high school into the military. So these concepts of health and well-being and wellness and peace were not abstract ideas, because we got to live with the veterans, we got to lose young men, we got to see what happened, not in abstract terms, but in real terms. The other grand institution, walking distance from where we lived in this little town, was a big federal prison. Off in the flower fields, you could see it off in the distance, a big federal prison. And it was an interesting prison in the 1970s, because it was a, if there is such a thing, it was kind of an aspirational prison. It was where the Watergate guys went to write their memoirs. We would go into this prison on the weekends to play ball. It was the best gym, and they had cable TV, so we would go into prison. Mom, can you take me to the prison on the weekends? It's the wrong message. I would build a youth center, don't you think? It's no joke. Over the course of 10, 15, 20 years, the hue of that prison changed. There's no longer a trustee prison, one where people could come and go and write their memoirs. It got darker and darker. We saw an increase in mentally ill as we deinstitutionalized. Places where we care for mentally ill went there. Black and brown children started going there. We imprison more people and incarcerate more people in this country than anywhere in the world. Today there are 2.3 million jails and prisons. We have the highest rate of incarceration in the world. Bureau of Justice says will incarcerate 1 of the 3 black babies by the time they're adults. 50% of those in jails mentally ill. The third grand institution right near my house, military base, federal prison. The third was a public high school. We all went to public schools. Most of us undereducated. There's something called the working class school for sociologists in the room, something called the working class, that prepares you just for that, prepares you work. Some get prepared for college, some kinds of schools, and some prepare you for work. This was one that prepared us for work. There was some sprouting up of these little institutions. The trifecta, within a couple of 100 yards of my high school. Before I graduated from my freshman year to my senior year, these sprouted up like tulips in Mercer Island. The first was Happy Clown at McDonald's. You can go and get a Happy Meal, and the 2 or 3 of you can gather together and have a few dollars you can actually eat for the day, and maybe 2 or 3 times a day. And if we were lucky, we could perhaps work there. McDonald's was across the street. The next, within 100 yards of that, a young man named Rodney Allen Rippey. He enticed us with his smile, come as you like, come as you are, to Jack in the Box. And there you could get a Coke and a smile, and it would make you happy. If we were lucky, we could find work there. The third, the trifecta, was Taco Bell, right by the high school, Taco Bell. Most of the population there was Hispanic at that. So let's talk a bit about child obesity. 4 decades, child obesity has tripled. 1 in 3 kids overweight, obese. Track where 1 in 3 kids will have obesity in this country. And it's just worth our thinking about these issues and thinking about these issues, especially as it relates to communities that are so oftentimes rendered invisible. We're together here to talk about issues that matter in the world and that matter to all of us. So I personally want to say it's important that we deconstruct these issues and think about why it is that some people live longer, why it is that some people want to have a vision of wellness. So we should talk about justice. We should talk about fairness. We should talk about the health and well-being of our communities. W.E.B. Du Bois said something that was really powerful and profound to me. It's kind of stuck with me. It was before the turn of the century. He said it in a speech. It was just a line. He said, "Here is the chance for young men and women of devotion to lift up the banner of humanity and march toward a civilization that is free and intelligent, that is healthy and unafraid." Imagine just 4 things that would really be aspirational: to be free, to be intelligent, to be healthy and unafraid. I'm glad you're here together to talk about these issues. I'm proud to be associated with you. And I'm both from the standpoint of my work and the standpoint of my person, I'm grateful to the work that you're doing. So thank you.